Call the Yreka Committee to order. Today is Tuesday, March 11th, and the time is now 2:32 p.m. Committee members, Mayor Corey Middleton and Councilmember Colleen Baker are present. The Communications Committee is an ad hoc subcommittee consisting of 2 council members, those who I just mentioned, the city manager and the city clerk. The purpose and responsibility of the Communications Ad hoc Committee, with consultation from city staff, is to review communication channels with the public and residents who have varying levels of access, and that the city better understands and is able to disseminate information and communicate effectively within the vast preferences for how, when, where, what, and why for understanding. And the committee shall advise and make recommendations to the city council on matters related to the effective communications that include visual, oral, Oreos, visual, oral, print, digital, multilinguistic, and where residents are able to engage with the city reciprocally utilizing many of these tools. Ms. Prohaska, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Public comment. Public participation is limited to those items listed on the agenda. If your comments do not concern an item listed on this agenda, please address the City Council at the next regular meeting. The city requests that persons addressing the Communications Committee refrain from making personal, slanderous, profane, or disruptive remarks. Committee members, when recognized by the committee chair, may ask questions from the presenter, but no action may be taken by the committee during the public comment section of the meeting. Under the Brown Act, the committee is prohibited from discussing or taking action on any items not listed on the posted agenda. Please speak into the microphone from the podium. The podium electronically adjusts up and down to accommodate the speaker. Please state your name for the record prior to providing your comments. Please address the committee as a whole. If you have documents to present, please provide a minimum of 4 copies. These become a public record. Please limit your remarks to 3 minutes. Since the committee is unable to take action on items not on the agenda, your matter may be referred to staff for follow-up or be placed on a future agenda. Public comment period is not intended to be a question and answer period or conversations with the committee or city staff. I'll open it up for public comment now.
Marie Entree. Just a little while ago, when I was walking up here to come to this, I got attacked by 2 dogs. I went into City Hall to let them know that there's dogs running in their parking lot, and I was told by a lady that I would have to call the Humane Society. The Humane Society. Why do our workers not know who to contact and what to tell the public? This is what you guys are supposed to do, help the public. I'm telling you here, I'm telling you now. That was the wrong answer. She screamed it 3 times at me like I'm stupid or deaf. I heard her the first time. The Humane Society is not the right answer. We have an animal control. Every cop is supposed to be animal control. That is the right answer. And here's another answer. I reached out to her. It happened on public city property. I can't have dogs attacking my service dog. She should have called the cop for me, but he's here and I'm going to go take care of that now. Thank you. Max.
Thank you. Any further public comment?
Louise Gliotto, Yreka. And I'm a little confused because I thought we were supposed to just at public comment talk about what's on the agenda. So what I just heard was not on the agenda. So can I talk about something that's not on the agenda before I talk about the agenda item? I don't know. You're not supposed to answer me, but I'm confused.
I'd like to go ahead and respond to that. I believe that where she was going with her comments were that there was miscommunication
Okay.
from city staff.
Okay, I didn't get that. Anyway, thank you for having this meeting today. And I want to make a comment that had I not talked to Colleen about the subject matter that's on the agenda, I wouldn't have known that this meeting was occurring today. I went on the city Facebook page and there was nothing on the city Facebook page about this meeting, but you had things on there about, the thing where you can bring all your cuttings and things to the community yard and things like that. I think this is important. I appreciate the fact that you're even having a committee on this. And my other comment would be is if this is to communicate better with the community, then maybe you should make more of an effort to let the community this is going on. And I don't know how ad hoc committee meetings go, but is there such a thing as perhaps having a member of the committee on your committee? The members of the community on your committee on that so they could give you direct comment. The best people to ask how best to communicate with the citizens is the citizens. And I want to make a comment about what's on the agenda, and that has to do with Zoom meetings. As near as I could tell, the Zoom meetings stopped in they ended them in December of 2023. I think that the Zoom meeting should be reinstated, in particular because the council chambers are not ADA compliant. And so that leaves senior citizens who aren't stable on their feet. It means people that are in wheelchairs who cannot fully participate. And I use that word fully participate. To me, that means being able to respond and do public comment. So I think that's something that needs to be looked at. If you allow people to do the Zoom meetings and comment, then they wouldn't have to attend the meetings to be heard. Also, the last meeting I went to in January, or maybe it was February, a lady actually was sitting in the front row and went to leave and fell on the steps. So that is one good reason to reinstate the Zoom meetings. More people would participate that way. I think that would be helpful in terms of getting more people involved in the community and what's happening here at the city council. Thank you.
Good afternoon.
No,
Oh, yeah. Good afternoon. My name is Marilyn Anderson, and I came to speak about the Zoom thing too. And Louise pretty much said everything I was going to say, but I do know that there are a lot of people in our city and around that are interested in the public goings on. And a lot of people don't like to drive at nighttime, including myself. And some people are ill. Some people just can't make the meetings at nighttime. And I just would encourage you to get the Zoom because it just would broaden the whole communication thing with people. And we need more people to know what's going on in our city of Yreka. Thank you.
Lorenzo Love, this is probably the last time you'll ever hear me say this, but I agree with Louise completely. The city needs to do a better job getting the word out at these meetings even exist. I mean, there is a sign up link on the agenda page, but it's non-intuitive. First, you got to know what's there, and then you got to figure out how it works. It would be much more user friendly to have it on the Facebook page. Thank you.
Jan Osborne, Yreka. Ditto the previous speakers, but I just want to encourage you to read some of our founding documents and comments by our founding fathers. This republic won't work unless there is citizen involvement. And for the many reasons, like to find this, I've got on the Agenda Center. I can't even get on the city's Facebook page anymore. My phone is so old, it won't let me do that. But a lot of people don't know what's going on. I don't know how many of them, though, could come at 2:30 in the afternoon. And I know it's hard to decide when you're going to have a meeting, but at 2:30, most of our productive citizens are at work. And so maybe a different time, but I don't how you do that. But as many opportunities as we can give people to take part, to be participants in their government, the better off we are. And I think the Zoom calls are definitely a way where more people will be included and be able to make comments and hear what's going on. Thank you.
I'm to say anything, but Arlene Berwick, I just wanted to say that I'm also in favor of the Zoom calls, the times that I've used it. Sometimes it's been a little difficult to hear everything that's being said, but if I'm not able to come in personally, and sometimes given my age and health issues, not knowing if it's going to be a full room, I'm a little leery of being in a crowded room during flu season, etc. Anyway, I'm really in support of the Zoom issue.
Is there any other public comment? Thank you, everybody, for your comments. We're going to move on to item number 4, which is city business. Item A, Mr. Ledbetter.
Yes, Cindy, if you don't mind pulling up the presentation. All right, so this is Jason Ledbetter, the city manager for the city of Yreka. So just to give some context to what we're doing here today, the city did about 12 meetings over the course of 18 to 20 months, specifically to gauge a better ability to communicate more effectively with the community. And we landed on some goals, and we stated on the final meeting that we would have a reflective meeting to go back and see how those action items were panning out. Just kind of come in and check in with the decisions that were made to see if things were improving as far as communication was concerned. And so that's what this first item is. And so ultimately, some of the things that were discussed over that 18-month to 20-month period were the newsletter, different ways of communicating with the city. So I just highlighted a few: the newsletter, See, Click, Fix, the city website, Facebook, this idea about doing videos, and then the idea about doing some customer service training. And so the agenda that we're going to review here today is just off to the right on that first slide. So we're going to look at the videos and our utilization of Facebook. We're going to talk about what's happening with our website that the clerk and I are currently working with Civic Plus on an update. We'll reevaluate or discuss what kind of changed with the newsletter. We'll talk about the state of the city address that was just given here recently. We'll talk about internal communication, and we'll end it here with customer service. So just the first section here, on to the next slide. So video engagement and Facebook, this is where I think we thought we would have our most effective level of communication. And so ultimately, I just took a snip of what was at the time this morning the most current posting that we had, which was the fire hazard severity zone map that we just discussed. So that was the last posting this morning that we had. We weren't really utilizing Facebook. I think when I first came here, it was very sporadic on how often we were posting. And through these meetings, there was a determination that we needed to make one post a week, essentially. And so one meaningful post a week, not have a great Valentine's Day, right? Like by the city of Yreka. But what are we doing? How can we communicate with people on what we're actually doing? And so that's where we decided to turn to some video engagement. And so I've just kind of listed here some of the videos that we have done that ended up on our Facebook site. We did a video for air curtain burner. We showcased the Carnegie Project. We did essentially a marketing advertisement campaign for Madrone Hospice, just showcasing the senior lunch program at our facility, the community center. We did a shop with the cop video. We did multiple Yreka Fire Department videos about the possibility of paid staff and a new building. We also did a training video of YFD, the holiday parade. We did when Dwayne Kaeg left council and James Clare came on. We had that transition meeting that we recorded. Yreka Night of Lights, and then a multitude of the beautification, which was really the original, which was Tammy and all the great flowers that she does. And so we feel pretty positive about where we're headed with the videos, and we think that they've made a huge impact. Right now, the only place that they're being located is on Facebook, but they're going to be housed on our city website as we're currently going through the process of updating the city website. We'll be adding all of these videos over the next, I would be honest and say 3 to 6 months. We should be completed with that. Next slide. And actually, why don't we just make this as interactive as possible? If there's something really pressing you want to talk about, please chime in right now. If not, we can just, at the very tail end, you guys can give me your feedback.
Fine.
So the next big heavy hitter that we thought we can do an update to the website. We've had the website for a period of time, and based off of our contract, we were entitled to a free upgrade. And so we're utilizing that at the moment. This is a color scheme. So this is where we currently are at. We have these meetings scheduled with Civic Plus, and the last meeting was this color palette and these changes based off of our seal that you see on this slide. And so this is just showcasing that we are moving in this direction. The ultimate goal was to utilize social media to drive people to the website, and inevitably, eventually, hopefully people then just start eventually going to the website, because ultimately, Facebook is specific to a certain demographic. Instagram is to a different demographic. Red Note is to another demographic. TikTok is to another demographic. I think it's inappropriate to think that the city is just going to continue to add social media accounts. Ultimately, we should probably strive to get away from them, is my opinion, because they are private, and we have no control over what's happening with those sites. And we would like people to utilize our actual website. So that's our long-term goal. Next slide. So I think there's opportunity here. We changed up the newsletter and made it more of a city manager update and more of a newspaper format. But through that process and then through some just changes that happened within City Hall, I think we're off track. We don't really have, I think we really need to establish a quarterly newsletter, because we don't really have one at the moment. We did have a quarterly newsletter when it was more of the glossy letter that had more limited information and almost seasonal information. It was the same information for the most part that would go out, telling you about leaves, telling you about snow removal, just depended upon the time of year, maybe telling you about water rationing as well. We had a lot of canned items that really we're moving away from because we want to showcase more of the projects and the actual shovel in the ground and the things that we're technically doing that we know make an improvement to the infrastructure, which make a beautification to the city. And so our goal is to showcase more of that. And so we did, I'd say, at least 2 or 3 of these newspaper newsletters focused on all the different projects we're doing and then focused specifically on paid fire staff and a new fire hall as well. But I think there's opportunity here to really formalize a calendar on the newsletter. So, next slide. So, we did a giant state of the city address here recently at the start of 2025. Some of you were in attendance at that meeting. Every department head came up. We gave a really thorough presentation on the majority of projects happening within each department, even HR and finance, obviously community development and public works. And so this seemed to work out relatively well, and then kind of is a nice Rolodex of the projects that we can then just kind of present this information as needed, or even have the city council have it in their hands so that they're just extremely familiar with all of the multitude of projects that are happening. So we're going to continue to, I think we're going to increase the frequency of this, is kind of my understanding, to 3 times a year. So there'll be opportunity for people to come in and get a constant update as far as what's going on at the city. Next slide. We talk about communication, but really we also need to communicate internally. And I think people sometimes lose sight of that. And so we did make some alterations to our internal communication. We have essentially 3 monitors now set up, one at Public Works, one at the police department, and currently one when you first walk into City Hall as an employee. We hope to move that. We're going to purchase a television to put in the entryway of City Hall. And essentially, the state of the city is on the TV. HR communications is on the TV, safety training is on the TV, and so it's just cycling through. We can add to it. And what you're seeing up here is literally the dashboard that the HR director has. He controls what's on each television set. And what you're seeing are the 3 different television sets on his control panel in real time at the time that he snipped this for me. And so he can control all the information at all 3 televisions from his office. And so got this idea when we toured Pfeiffer NorCal, because they have a TV in each one of their entry and ingress egresses as you move into different sites of the building. So job opportunities would be on here, any type of safety information we're trying to disseminate, or even the postings that we put on Facebook to showcase to our employees that, hey, we are going to have a leaf or, the ability to go drop off your green waste this weekend, so take advantage of that. So we're pretty happy with that. We plan on adding more. So wastewater would be getting one. The fire department would be getting one, just to increase the communication rather than staring at a safety poster. So next slide. And then the other item that we haven't completely rolled out yet, but I talked to John and Emily today about, is we're going to incorporate just a brief 5 to 10 minute session on our Friday floor meetings that we have with the staff inside City Hall to just continue to go over our interpretation of what positive customer service is and providing training to the floor staff. I mean, I think at the moment we have a very good floor staff. But ultimately, we want to continue to drive home the level of customer service. And so that was another opportunity for us where there was direction that this was something that we wanted to see happen. My personal opinion is we should try to do this internally before we paid some third party to come in and provide this level of training. So those are the highlights of what's currently happening. And so that's pretty much all I have. I can answer any questions anybody has.
Thank you, Mr. Ledbetter. Mr. Middleton, do you have any questions or comments?
I guess comments. Some comments I have. I would, I think the city has done a great job in having the committee, the ideas we've had with the newsletter and everything sounds great, but it's like you could only make you can't make people follow a city page of on Facebook. And if you don't follow it all the time, it disappears in your so we can try things all day long, but people have to follow it and want to be involved. We know that. Um, it is discouraging. We want to have public participation, but it seems like the harder we try, we really did outreach of when we did the housing element, that was, oh my gosh, that was advertised on the city website, Facebook page. And we still got what 11, 9 people after months of really trying to drive people there. So we can only do so much of, and keep trying in hopes that people come here. But the reality is, a lot of constituents I talk to say, "Oh, we'd love to come, but our kids in baseball, our kids are, they're busy on Tuesday nights or whatever, so they put their kids first. Yeah, they love their community, but they just can't make any meetings or any type of, even Saturdays. We tried Saturdays, no one showed up. It's sad that there's not involvement. Just, there's a handful of people that are our regulars that come to our meetings and really pay attention. But the reality is most people are busy. And it is nice to have an option, for Zoom. But then most people I talk to say, "Oh, we hated Zoom. We're glad it's done. We were tied up in the house. We don't want to be on Zoom, anymore watching that when we're forced to." So if they're not forced to, I mean, now that you can have an option. But I think we've done a great job of um, making a lot of changes that weren't here before, with the idea of you having this ad hoc committee. But I don't know if whether it be 2:30 or 5:30, I think we'd have the same results. I mean, I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer here, but I think it's the same results as we just don't have the participation at city council meetings that we'd like. It's just the reality that since I've been sitting here for 4.5 years, that we've had a packed house or public participation um, on hot button issues, whether it be an increase or the housing, and that's dead. As you know, there's only we have our regulars and a few other people come in, but it is disappointing. But I think we've done a great job. And the other comment I have about the ADA compliance, I think we have been accommodating in the past. It hasn't been lately, but there used to be 2 people with wheelchairs that we accommodated that had come in. They're fine coming up the ramp, have sat here and had no problem. So I don't want to get out there that they are not able to get into our building. I just think that's not accurate. It may not meet the whole, section, but we have accommodated people in the past. So I think we've done a great job. I don't know how the council will do about the Zoom, but I also think that coming with Zoom has to come with a better audio system that I don't know if we have the money for, but I've had complaints when people set the Zoom. It's like it goes out or we can't hear us, because this building is brick. It wasn't set up for all the technology today. So, anyways, that's my comments, but it's up to the council if they want to bring it back. But I think we've done a great job about bringing different ideas and listening to the people that do show up about what how to put things out there, but it's up to the people to want to come and if they want to read it. I don't know what else we can do. Well, the paper, one other thing is not having a paper really took people loved reading a paper and seeing city council stuff and what's going on, but now that's all digital. So people have to follow the daily news, or Skip has his own thing now. So people have to follow his page. And the most time people don't want to pay. You can only get a couple of articles, but then you have to subscribe and people don't want to do that. So we can try, but then people, no, I don't want to do that. So anyways, that's my comments, but I think we've done a great job of the things we have done, and can some things be better? Probably, but I think we've done a great job with communicating and trying new things that haven't been done before, which we're kind of forced to because of the paper not being there. So thank you. That's it. What I have.
Thank you. So, I, echo, Councilmember, Middleton's, comments with, I think that, we've done a great job with this committee. I appreciate how responsive the city staff has been. And we have made, I believe, some major improvements in communication, both internally and externally. I agree that we could advertise everything 24/7. And it's frustrating to me to hear, well, I didn't know about that. But then again, that's just the reality, I think, of limited media that we have here. So I do have a couple of comments that I'd like to make as far as just the different modes of communication that we've opened up. I'm going to talk about C-Click Fix for just a minute. I actually used it a couple of times. And the first time I used it, it was a little, kind of pulled my hair a little bit. But the second time I used it, it clicked, for lack of a better word. And then I went in and checked it a few times because I was just curious about how often how often it's used. And one of the comments that I had about it was, is there a way that you could close down public comments on C-Click Fix? There was an issue reported about somebody's property and it needed to be cleaned up. And there was a person who reported it, but then there were lots of negative comments made to the person who reported it. And I just would like to see if we could limit public comments. Just because it's not helpful. And that's that's, in my opinion, that's not the format for the public to weigh in on what somebody else is reporting. That's good. I really appreciate customer service training. And thank you for instituting that, Mr. Ledbetter. And I also would just like to highlight what I think is really just a huge improvement in communication overall with the city. And that's with the addition of our city clerk position, because that position is really kind of front line, especially for the city council and, the public records, as well as getting agendas out, doing research for us. And it's nice to actually have that position filled. And I understand that our city clerk has been going to school to be certified. And I think that that's just such a wonderful addition to the city. It just ups our professionalism, in my opinion. So I'd like to thank you for that as well. And I like the idea, your suggestion of changing the newsletters to quarterly. I think that is a great idea. And you said that the state of the city address is available internally, or it will be.
Yeah, so it's on the screens at all three locations where we currently have screens. So it's it as well as a number of other things. There's a little bunch of HR information, but we're just trying to showcase to folks that work at YPD, hey, this is what Public Works is doing, and vice versa. So it's available internally via watching the television set in the specific department.
Is that available on the city's website as well?
You know, I don't think that it currently is. I think that's where we're in the process of we have these meetings. We have like 3 months of meetings scheduled that we've started. And so ultimately we will make it available, and we'll probably even maybe consider a way to make it a video. So it just kind of automatically clicks through and you don't have to like do your own PowerPoint. But yeah, we're hopeful to better utilize our website and have that information more useful instead of all these PDFs that show up that you really just nobody ever can find, quite frankly. So we will inevitably have it on there. We could add it right now, but we're not because we don't get any traffic on our website because of how it's formatted. But we can, if you'd like us to, we can add it. It's not a big deal. We can add it.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're going to really hyper focus on the videos and the calendar. That first landing page that you come on, we really want people to know exactly what's happening in the community as far as the calendar is concerned, and to get information in a different way where we're all getting information now with a 90-second videos rather than a lot of reading.
Um, the quality of the videos is top notch.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I really enjoy them. I just really appreciated the one about Madrone Hospice.
Yeah.
That was a great video. And I think that it's important to me that we continue to have this meeting every 6 months to just kind of review where we are, and to kind of keep that going, as well as the opportunity for the public to come in and specifically address communication issues. And I have an idea that I would like to just toss out regarding communications. I would really like to see the city council members have regular hours at City Hall. And what I'm thinking of is like in this chamber on Friday afternoons, being available for an hour. If somebody wanted to come in and talk with you. And I have to say, I'm throwing this at you off the top of my head. So I don't know if that's even a possibility. And I know that each of the city council members has different availability, but I would just like to see that tested for like 6 months and see if people utilize coming and meeting with a city council member. And it would be purely voluntary on the part of the city council members, but I think that that's a way to, we can improve communication. And then, once a week or once every other week, people know where we're at.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I think we can easily institute that with the city council members that are interested in doing it. And then we would reserve the space, set the date, post it on Facebook, make the announcement at city council as well. And then just have, you guys have a key to this space. You would just come in and sit and see who shows up.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. And then, yeah, we kind of separated the two items. So if you guys are ready, I can move on to the Zoom inquiry.
Yes, the discussion and feedback regarding allowing public participation via Zoom.
Yeah, so I'm gonna just kind of give my understanding of what transpired. And so I do have some Muni code information. I have enough to hand out to everybody in the room, and I'll do that here in just a moment. But there was an emergency action taken by the state of California during COVID, which superseded our local law and basically, whether we liked it or not, incorporated essentially Zoom into our communication for city council because people couldn't physically be here. And so when that order was lifted, that's the reason there was no vote to remove Zoom. It was more of just a conversation amongst the council. And it was felt at that time by the city attorney, based off of other things that were happening in the state of California, that it made a lot of sense to also remove the Zoom option from the city of Yreka city council meetings. And so no action actually took place because we just reverted back to what we used to do. And that's why there was no technical vote. And so I just want everyone to be aware that doesn't mean that you can't currently watch a meeting from home. You can. They're live streamed. You just can't make public comment. So ultimately, as it stands right now, all of our meetings are available on YouTube. And if you go to our agenda and you click on the link, you will watch the you can watch the meeting. Or beyond that, every single meeting we've had here for many years is available to watch on our website. You can reflectively go back and watch old meetings. We do it all the time for historical purposes to try to gauge what was said at a specific meeting based on maybe a conflict with what we're working on. So I just want everyone to be aware that technically right now you can watch the live stream shows or city council meetings. As an example, I think the last city council meeting, I went home and then I got into bed and I follow the Siskiyou Media channel and I got onto YouTube and immediately I watched like an hour of our meeting. So it was already available to watch on YouTube on Siskiyou Media Council. But on that note, based off of how we reverted back to what we were normally doing, I'm now going to pass out. This is from our Muni Code, section 1.24. And I'll just go over this after I pass it out.
Thank you, Sam.
So this is my understanding, and ultimately, there's the staff has no opinion on reinstituting Zoom. It makes no difference to us. So if the council would like to reinstitute Zoom, we have no issue with that. We believe what would have to happen is a new ordinance would have to get drafted, which inevitably should get drafted anyway for this section. I'm going to read to you some statements here. And ultimately, too, the reason this needs to get updated is because technically we are the government and we have these rules and they're known as the Muni Code, local law, the local ordinances. Every time we pass an ordinance, we're passing a new law. And that's our playbook. That's technically, we're telling the community, these are the rules to live in our society here in the city of Yreka. And it really makes the most sense for us to enforce them all uniformly. But what's happened in a multitude of cities across the state, across the country, is that this hasn't been updated in a way that is meeting a lot of the times the new laws that are coming. Or as you'll see when I read this, it's misogynistic. So here we go. I'm just going to read it. So 1.24.170A, manner of addressing council. Each person desiring to address the council shall step up to the microphone in the front of the rail, state his name, and address for the record, state the subject he wishes to discuss, state whom he is representing if he represents an organization or other persons, and unless further time is granted by majority vote of the council, shall limit his remarks to 5 minutes. All remarks shall be addressed to the council as a whole, and not to any member thereof. No questions shall be asked a councilman or council member of the city staff without the permission of the presiding officer. So what they're stating here is in order to give public comment, you physically have to be in this room. And I know a lot of people just say, who cares? That doesn't make any sense. We should just use common sense. And yes, you are correct. We should just use common sense, but technically we are supposed to follow our Muni code. My contract is written in a way that I am supposed to uphold the local laws, and ultimately the city council can change those laws. So we have an impediment here to just make a quick change. And so what I'm stating, this is, I believe, what Andrew and I discussed is how we were able to revert back and remove Zoom so quickly is because this was already in place. And so if it is of the communications ad hoc will that they would like to see this changed, it's very simple. I think just at Tuesday's meeting, one of you would need to address Attorney Jared and make the request that he ultimately update this section to meet whatever needs, and then obviously change the sex of the comments as well, right? It's inferring that only males can give a perspective, which is what used to be kind of the perspective, I guess, and historically,
1950.
right? So this is our only impediment, and the staff has no concern over going back to adding Zoom. It makes really not a complete difference to us, but I think Cindy had a point. And do you have a microphone back there, Cindy? Yeah, but we won't be able to know what you said when I watch this meeting in 2 years. You know what I mean? Because this does happen. I go back and watch these meetings and someone's speaking to someone in the audience and I'm like, well, I don't know what was I don't know what was said.
All right, is that better?
Yeah, so Cindy's going to explain to us the only issue that has ever transpired for the city of Yreka when it comes to Zoom.
So since I have been the city clerk, I have had, and when we did have Zoom implemented, I've had to kick off a few members of our public that were naked on Zoom.
Yeah, they appeared to not understand. They weren't trying to be provocative, but they didn't understand that the camera worked both ways.
Correct.
Kind of how we that's how we interpreted it. And so ultimately that's the only thing you have to be cognizant of is that we have no control over the camera that someone else has. I mean, we inevitably can kick them off, but if there are a number of people on,
Yep, I did kick this person off after multiple requests for them to turn off their video cameras. And I will say that everybody who was on Zoom that night did see this individual and all of the bits, I guess you could say. And that has happened a few times. So I just want that to be something that is considered when bringing Zoom back, that is something that I have had to deal with in the past.
yeah, so that's our only concern. I think the attorney's concern was more of vulgarity, or maybe people. I don't know if you just never know what will happen in your community, but ultimately, a lot of the times people were calling in to say Los Angeles to those meetings, and they had very, very derogatory language that they were using. But that's not happened here. So ultimately, if that were to be happening, then you could just say we're going to lose this ability to have Zoom if this continues. So that's pretty much all we have on this item.
Mr. Middleton, any comments?
Um, no, it probably does need to be updated. I don't know when this was written. Everything seems to be.
So
1970.
yeah,
Oh,
1970.
1970. Oh, I thought it'd been older than that. Wow. Okay. So probably does need to be updated. And then probably discussion be brought back, and then because I know there was some other issues too that and I can't recall going back without having to see the meeting or having the attorney address it. There were some other legal issues that were the governor mentioned about different things with Zoom and whatnot. So I guess we'd have to probably go back and see what his opinion is, if there's any, or if anything has changed since then. But I know there was a lot of criteria after, like it was after I said no more, blah, 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 you go back. This is why. And then he was saying, end it. Pretty much the governor said, no longer, So I would like to see what Mr. Jared has to say regarding the matter, just not in changing this, but if it's problem with other cities or if they just um, got rid of it. But that's it.
Thank you. So I have a couple of questions about logistics. I know that right now, our meetings are streamed through Siskiyou Media Council. And would changing the format to Zoom, would that have any effect on the streaming?
It had an effect to begin with, but I think we were able to work around it. There was a time period where it was simultaneous. I think we were doing a live stream and it was Zoom, I believe. So we would bring Dave back from Siskiyou Media Council and have him take a look at the system and make sure that that should be step one, I guess, is ultimately we'll reach out to Siskiyou Media Council, advising him that we're looking at altering back to Zoom and make sure that there's no impediment there.
Okay, thank you. And I know that the our board of supervisors, they have specific language on their agendas regarding Zoom, and basically their language is that they reserve the right to discontinue it at any time for any reason. So that might be, if we decide to go that way, that might be some language that we want to consider adding to our agendas, because I seem to remember that there were issues about jurisdictions being inconsistent with Zoom, and that caused some problems. And at least that's how I'm remembering it, that it needed to be consistent. I agree with Mr. Middleton that the audio quality of our meetings oftentimes is not really great. And that concerns me with Zoom as well. So can we have a revamp of the chambers with all kinds of wonderful mics and cameras? No.
Yeah.
At some point in time. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. At some point in time, I would say most of the issues over the audio are mostly from inside the building. They're not externally. That most of the time it's that individuals are not speaking into the microphone and people on Zoom cannot hear, which is happening now. So ultimately, we do have instances where people are not speaking into the microphone. We had it the other night at city council where people were asking people to speak up. And then ultimately on the live stream, it's the same scenario. People cannot hear you ultimately, or we're not cognizant. I think sometimes we're just not cognizant that people are watching or that they can watch in the future. And so ultimately people are just get used to talking, or we used to have it when I first started, members of the public would just talk to the mayor from from out here in the seating section with no microphone. So I think honestly, that's mostly the issue. Obviously, yeah, we would love to revamp that and we will go look for a couple $1 million to figure out how we can do that sooner rather than later. But ultimately, we know we can't do that at this moment. But I think with the system we have, we should be able to run a meeting where people hear us on the television.
Thank you. So, Mr. Middleton, how do you feel about making a recommendation to put this item, to bring it forward on a future city council meeting for reconsideration?
Yeah, we can do that. I agree.
So that's what we'd like to see happen, but only after a discussion with Siskiyou Media Council to make sure that both formats can be accommodated.
Yep, we'll reach out to Dave at SMC, get clarification that can happen. And then just the last point that I advocate is that you may, in your discussion at city council, if you get agreement, you may look at more than just 1.170, you may look at all of 1.24 and have a broader discussion about all the ins and outs of things that you want to discuss and possibly change, because the majority of these are written 1970 or before. So
Thank you. So, moving on to item 5, future discussion. Mr. Middleton?
It just got to that, and
I think what
What do
the
you prefer?
notes we have are, we'll schedule, basically I'll just have Cindy go schedule the next two years essentially of these meetings. And so 6 months from today, we'll have a meeting. 1 year from today, we'll have a meeting. 18 months from today and 24 months from today. And we'll just continue the reflective pieces, unless you guys can think of something today that you want to talk about in 6 months, then we would put it on the agenda. But you also have time to tell us a couple weeks before the meeting too. So
Thank you.
yeah, 6 months is fine with me.
Okay.
Does the 2:30 time work for a 6 month?
Um, this is just an idea. I don't know if it'll make a difference if it's 2:30, 3:30, 4:30 or whatever. Well, we can't do that because I say if we could maybe have it before the regular council meeting, but sometimes we have closed sessions, so I don't know if that would work or not.
Yeah.
I was trying to make it where some people can come in 5:30 before the council, so that won't work. But
You know, I would just like to offer up that that's a good idea. And when we schedule it, we'll just make sure that there's no closed session. Or to schedule this committee meeting right before a regular council meeting. So it would be held in the evening. Is
like at
that
5:30.
at 5:30?
yeah, the only pause I have on that is that it's been 1 hour now, and so ultimately you're gonna restrict your time that you have for this meeting. If you do end up getting a lot of people showing up to the meeting, we're gonna have to close it and start city council meeting.
Good point.
Yeah.
So 4:30 may be better on a city council day. Well, maybe 3:30 if we have closed session. I don't know.
Or we can just do another day at 5:30 or 5:30.
Yeah.
That's fine.
How about if we just leave the time to be determined?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's just do that, and we'll touch base with you guys as we get closer.
Okay. Thank you. All right, item 6, city manager staff reports.
Yeah, ultimately, I don't have anything, and I'll just advocate to the city clerk. I think what we need to do is we need to have different agenda templates for different meetings, and so we're just kind of going through the standard template at the moment where we're done. The staff is done presenting.
Thanks. Mr. Middleton, do you have any report that you would like to make? Statements, requests?
Nope, I don't. Not much has happened since last meeting.
Okay, I don't have anything else to add either. So I'm going to go ahead and adjourn the meeting at 3:31.